Hey, I was just listening to discourse about Eric and Lyle Menendez being denied parole, and I had to turn it off because I'm vibrating with rage. And while they were talking about Eric and Lyle Menendez, which if you're not familiar with the case, please look into it more than surface level, they brought up Gypsy Rose. And I think the discourse that we have about abused children killing their abusers when those abusers happen to be their parents needs to be examined, and it needs to be changed. Because people will very flippantly say, well, this is literally what they said. Well, even if Eric and Lyle were being raped by their father, it doesn't justify them killing him. What? What? Since fucking when? Since fucking when? Why would it be different if it wasn't their dad? Why is it not worse that it's their dad? Why do we give parents carte blanche to do whatever the fuck they want to their kids? I already know why. Because we see children as property, specifically property of their fathers, usually. Okay? Wives are the property of the husband, and the children are the property of the husband. It's only more recently, within my mother's lifetime, that mothers were also seen as like property owners. So in both of these cases, we have children who have been judged harshly by society for reacting to abuse and alleged abuse, because in Gypsy Rose's case, we know exactly what happened, and we know for a fact she was viciously, physically, mentally abused and tortured by the woman that happened to push her out of her vagina. She's not special because she's her mother. She's not allowed to cut out her salivary glands because she's her mother. That's not how we should do things. Okay? If Gypsy Rose had been abducted by a woman who did the exact same things to her, we would all be cheering for her and saying, yeah, she's really fucked up. She's not very socially adjusted. She has some personality traits that are not fun to deal with. But the thing is, this is not an issue of the new generation not understanding the nuance of the case and giving Gypsy like extra credit when she doesn't deserve it. This is people not understanding the details of the case and people giving deference to parents. Because what everyone talks about when everyone talks about the Gypsy case is, oh, she murdered her mom. No, she didn't murder her mom. This is a girl who was abused her entire fucking life, who had tried to escape and had been caught and chained down for 2 weeks where she had to piss and shit herself. She tried to escape. She did everything she could with what limited power she had, and she did a damn good job fighting, okay? And I will never not be proud of her for doing that, for trying to escape. Then she met a guy online who had his own mental issues, and between the two of them, they killed Dee Dee. And I've seen the crime scene photos. I don't give a fuck. Rest in piss, Dee Dee. I don't give a shit. That's way, way, way less torment than what she inflicted on her own child. But for some reason, people think, oh, well, no matter what your parent does, you can't do that to them. You can't do terrible things to your parent if they do terrible things to you, because they're your parent and they're in charge of you and they own you. That's what my pastor told me when I came to him for help, because my father was sexually abusing me, but I couldn't tell him that. So I started off by telling him, hey, my dad broke my arm, which was true. It was broken at the time. It was in a cast. And instead of trying to find out why my dad broke my arm or trying to find out if I was okay or anything, this pastor, without skipping a beat, was like, well, your dad is in charge of you, and these are not his exact words, I was 14. Your dad's in control of you, and you better not misbehave, because if he wants to break every bone in your body, he's allowed to do that because you're his property under the Lord. So I think this is indoctrinated into people that children are property and children are not allowed to resist abuse, and it's destructive. It's bad for victims, okay? It keeps victims silent, it keeps victims trapped, and it makes victims feel like there's really no way out other than whatever you can do at the time, which for Gypsy was to fucking allow this guy to stab her mom to death and to maybe get a few licks in herself, and I don't blame her not one fucking bit for that. I'm not saying she's a perfect person or a perfect victim. I'm saying victims shouldn't have to be perfect. If your mother tortures you and cuts pieces of your body off, and then when you try to escape, she chains you to a bed and makes you piss and shit yourself for 2 weeks, I don't care that that's your mother. I wish the same justice on her that I would if it wasn't your mother. And I don't understand this mental hang-up that people have, but I think that's because I learned very early on that sometimes your parents are the worst possible people to be in charge of you, and they do anything and everything they want to you because they know they can get away with it. Now, going on to Eric and Lyle Menendez, there is so much fucking evidence that these boys were sexually abused by their father and that their mother allowed it. And the thing that people have their panties in a bunch about is that after they killed them, they used the money they got from their life insurance or from their bank account or wherever the fuck to go and buy stuff and go on a shopping spree. And people go, oh, well, see, it was all greed. But you know what I see? Trauma. I see trauma. I see them trying to bury their feelings in this new freedom they have. And I don't hold that against them. Okay? I know what it's like to have the person that other kids get to have that person, and they get to have them be a hero in their lives, and they get to look up to them. To have that person, to have your father be the person that comes into your room at night and rapes you or molests you. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Shooting them was too easy. They should have killed them slower, honestly, personally. That's how I feel about it. And they definitely shouldn't be in jail. When there is a case of a child killing their parent and that parent is an abuser, take a fucking second and imagine, just use a little abstract thought and just fucking imagine if you would feel any differently about the whole situation if that person wasn't their parent. If it was just some dude or some lady off the street that kidnapped them and then did the exact same things to them, and they killed them in order to get away from that person, we wouldn't send them to jail. We'd throw them a parade. And I don't think that should be any different just because they're blood related to their abuser. I really don't. I remember going on forced visitation, and I remember buying a knife so that if it came down to that, I could try to get my licks in. I remember having a heavy-duty flashlight that I found rolling around in the floorboard that I would sit directly behind my dad while he was driving, and I would think, okay, well, if this goes sideways, I'm going to take this fucking flashlight, and I'm going to hit him in the head as hard as fucking possible, and then I'm going to pray I survive the car crash. I know what it feels like, and you know what? I'd have fucking done it. If it came down to me or him, and I had the opportunity, I'd have done it, and I wouldn't have felt bad about it. Because he's the one that put me in that position. Free Eric and Lyle. Give child victims of abuse that end up killing their abuser grace. Because they deserve it. And victims don't have to be perfect. That's ridiculous.